Imagine a family so powerful that kings borrowed money from them, wars were financed through their banks, and entire governments depended on their financial network. Yet today, most people barely recognize their name. They didn't build flashy technology companies. They didn't dominate newspaper headlines. Instead, their influence operated quietly in the background of history. In the early 19th century, five brothers spread across Europe: London, Paris, Vienna, Naples, and Frankfurt, each running a bank. Together, they created a financial network unlike anything the world had ever seen. Money moved through their system faster than governments could react. And for decades, this single family became the financial backbone of Europe. To understand how this happened, we have to go back to 18th century Frankfurt. At the time, Europe was a place of rigid social barriers. Many professions were closed to Jewish families, and opportunities were severely limited. But there was one field where skill could overcome restrictions: finance. Inside the narrow streets of Frankfurt's Jewish quarter, a young merchant named Mayor Amschel Rothschild began trading rare coins and financial documents. At first, it looked like a modest business. But Mayer possessed something far more valuable than coins. He understood relationships. Through careful networking and trust, he built connections with powerful aristocrats, including the wealthy German Prince William IX of Hesse-Kassel. Managing the prince's money gave Mayer access to enormous capital, and it opened the door to something much bigger. Instead of keeping his growing wealth concentrated in one place, Mayer made a decision that would change financial history. He sent his five sons to establish banking houses across Europe's most important cities. One son went to London, another to Paris, another to Vienna, another to Naples, and one remained in Frankfurt. At a time when communication between countries could take weeks, this family network functioned like a primitive global banking system. Information, letters, and funds traveled through trusted couriers who reported directly to the family. Because they trusted each other completely, the brothers could move money across borders faster than any government institution. In an era before telephones or modern banks, this was revolutionary. The timing of their rise could not have been more important. Europe was entering a period of massive conflict, known as the Napoleonic Wars. Armies required enormous funding to pay soldiers, supply weapons, and sustain long campaigns. Governments constantly needed loans, and the Rothschild banking houses were ready to provide them. They developed a reputation for reliability and speed. While governments struggled to move funds between countries, the Rothschild network quietly transferred money across Europe through its family branches. Their system became the financial engine behind many of the continent's largest political decisions. One of the most famous moments in their history occurred in 1815 during the Battle of Waterloo. This battle would determine whether Napoleon Bonaparte would continue dominating Europe or finally be defeated. News traveled slowly in those days. Governments could wait days or even weeks before learning the outcome of a battle. But the Rothschild network operated its own courier system. According to historical accounts and legends surrounding the event, Nathan Mayer Rothschild in London may have received news of the British victory before the government officially announced it. Markets were uncertain, and government bonds were fluctuating rapidly. Having early information in such a moment could provide an enormous financial advantage. Historians still debate exactly what happened next. Some stories claim Nathan used the early information to make a massive profit in the British bond market. Other researchers argue that the tale has been exaggerated over time. But regardless of the details, one thing is undeniable. After Waterloo, the Rothschild banking empire became the dominant financial power across Europe. Their banks financed railways that connected nations. They funded major infrastructure projects. They lent money to governments that were rebuilding after years of war. Kings, emperors, and politicians increasingly depended on their financial services. Yet despite this enormous influence, the Rothschild family maintained a remarkably low public profile. Unlike modern billionaires who appear constantly in media headlines, the family rarely sought fame. Their power existed quietly within financial networks, political relationships, and long-term investments. Over time, as modern banking institutions grew and governments created central banks, the Rothschild empire gradually became less dominant than it once was. However, their impact on financial systems remained profound. In many ways, the global financial networks we see today follow the blueprint the Rothschilds pioneered. International banks operate branches across multiple countries. Capital moves rapidly between continents. Financial institutions rely on trusted networks and fast information to make decisions. Organizations such as the International Monetary Fund, the World Bank, and the Bank for International Settlements coordinate financial policies across borders. The idea that money should flow through interconnected global systems, rather than isolated local banks, was demonstrated centuries ago by one ambitious family. The real lesson of the Rothschild story isn't simply about wealth. It's about how power in finance often operates quietly. The individuals who shape the flow of money rarely appear on magazine covers or dominate social media conversations. Instead, influence builds slowly through networks, trust, and information. While the public often focuses on visible fortunes and celebrity entrepreneurs, the deeper structures of finance are usually built behind the scenes. More than 200 years ago, the Rothschild family understood something fundamental about economic power. Whoever controls the movement of capital can influence the direction of history itself. And that raises an important question for our own time. If a single family once held such enormous influence over global finance, then who holds that power today? Let me know what you think.